I noticed before the rabbi mentioning people believing more in Mercedes-Benz than in God. And I remember a line from Woody Allen. It's a good joke, I think. He used to say that his parents believe in God and carpeting. And my question is, if you read the Bible, you don't find atheists. They are either believers or idol worshippers. So my point is, if you don't believe, do you think that it's possible not to become an idol worshipper? And when I say idol, I mean career, power, money, sex, our body. What do you think?
I think the worship of, what do we mean by worship? We mean to bend the knee to say I am in an obeisant position. Well, what do you say is greater than yourself? And it seems to me that the most important aspect of belief is to understand a kind of mystery, a sense that you don't know everything, to be humble about that, and to put yourself in some sort of unstable relationship to the unknown. That seems to me to be able to endure the instability of the limitation of human understanding is to be essentially a religious person. But I want to respond to something that Gay said, and one of the problems, one of the other idolatries that religious people are susceptible to is privatism. One learns to be religious, as Daniel said, through religious people. So if you met a lot of mean, crabby priests and nuns who told you were going to go to hell, you would probably think Catholicism was a pretty joyous religion. So if you happened to meet Pope Pius XII, you would probably look for the exit sign if you had any brains. On the other hand, if you met John the 23rd or Oscar Romero, you might think Catholicism was something quite other. And so I think we have to also understand that religious life is not lived in rooms where one person tries to figure out who God is. We live it as a lived life in a community, learning from other people who live a larger life because they live religiously. Jesus said, I have come that you have life and have it more abundantly. And if religion makes any sense, it's about a more abundant life. If it's making you frightened and guilty, it is not religion, but a kind of idolatry. And it's an idolatry that idolizes fear because fear is safer than hope.
It's actually rare that I meet a religious person, I have to admit. It's like when I meet...
You have at least one on this stage.
Right. It's like meeting an older virgin. I mean, that's the analogy I can think. Like, how did you last so long like that in this world? What's it like? Don't you? To me, it's something that I've become extremely curious about. I find myself asking lots of questions. I don't feel threatened in the slightest. This is like an echo of the reaction that I had when my license came in the mail. But I have this longing to be a little bit more like that person, even though I don't want to be. The 99.9% of me that guides my decision-making in my life has no desire to be like that. But there is something in me that I can't quite give up. I mean, my relationship to religion is something that I can't quite give up, or to faith is something I can't quite give up, which I think has to do with the poem that you read. There's a space that is inside of me that I don't value, but I'm aware of.
You couldn't build a building if you didn't believe. You'd be just putting bricks and steel. What could you do if you didn't believe? What would anything mean in the world? What would the murder of 6 million Jews mean if it didn't mean anything? If there was no spiritual value to it? It would be just a statistic. It would be just nothing. So there is meaning. Without meaning, you couldn't build a building. And I think it is certainly acknowledged by the great artists, whether Mies van der Rohe, who had, copy of St. Augustine on his desk, or whether it's Le Corbusier, who was, kind of, again, a heretical religious practitioner with inscription of all his beliefs in his buildings. I don't think you could, at least from my own point of view, I'm not a historian and I don't know much about it, but certainly from the point of view of making something without belief, it would be just a hollow exercise.
I'm the bad Catholic and he's the good Catholic. But it's affected me possibly because of my age. I grew up in a Catholicism perhaps that was very different from what the younger Antonio Munda knew and believed. I believed what I saw. And what I saw as a young man in the 1940s in the Catholic Church was a class system. A class system. The church of my time, of my youth, was dominated by the Irish American clergy, the bishops, the monsignors, and the priests, and the nuns were, with few exceptions, Irish. And there were many churches in my youth in which the Italians had to stay in the back. One doesn't recall that unless you're my age and have experience similar to mine. But there was this class system within the Catholic Church in this country, largely an immigrant church, with most stalwart members being Irish, and the others, Italians, being of a lower class, not having the language, not having perhaps the capacity to assimilate in one generation as the Irish, having the language, could. So I grew up with that kind of class Catholicism. And it's not something that I forgave ever. I'm not saying that I'm a vengeful person or my personality is afflicted into vengefulness in any way. It's just that I saw the church as hypocritical then, and I later on, when I married, I did marry in the church. I married a Catholic woman, but I went to Rome and married outside the church. I had a civil ceremony in Rome, of all places. It was in 1959. I'll soon be 50 years married to the same woman outside the church, having been married in Rome. So that says something. I don't know what.